And we are live on Unblocked Live, the anti-polarization podcast. My guest today is Mario Presents. We're going to talk about what's been going on in Los Angeles. He has been very active within the right-wing activist community at a lot of events, starting at WeSpa. I'll play a little intro music. We're going to get this podcast started. This is Unblocked Live, youtube.com/Unblocked Live. I'm Jeremy Lee Quinn. We are the anti-polarization podcast following protests and civil unrest and partisan conflict that we have seen over the last 2 years on this podcast. My guest today is Mario Presents from sunny Los Angeles. We're going to talk about what we saw in LA this summer. And I know what they did this summer, but I'm not sure that everybody else knows what happened this summer in Los Angeles and how it all played out. You were there at the WeSpa,
Yes.
correct?
Yes, I was.
And now, first, tell us a little bit about you. I've seen you here
Sure.
and there at different events. How long have you been politically active?
So I claim that I've been politically active since about 2013 as Mario Presents. That's when I created my website, www.mariopresents. That's when I started creating videos and creating secret groups for gay conservatives, people like me, to have a safe space because they couldn't express themselves online. They couldn't express their views in a public forum. Otherwise, they'd be casted out, exiled, excommunicated, whatever you want to call. It's that cancel culture that was existing in 2013. So it started there, and about 2019, I decided to get out from behind the computer screen and start attending rallies. And most recently, I guess my biggest notoriety has been being interviewed by Kayleigh McEnany, being on a CBN documentary about her, but also in several tweets and videos from the former president. And now Los Angeles Times puts me on the cover when it comes to my activism, because I do believe that it's my body, it's my choice. It's my choice to do with it as I please. These mandates are, definitely tyrannical, but I guess you and I took notice of one another at the WeSpa, where I stood up with the Patriots against a person who was exposing themselves to children.
And let's play a little clip from the WeSpa right away, just so people can see how heated it got. This is a slowed down clip. Jairo shot this video. As you can see, someone's taking your flag. You're trying to get it back, and then you get hit by the pole by somebody in full black bloc.
Correct.
So
Who
what we've
ran
seen,
away, incidentally. You see, I chased them. I was ready to go back and continue on, but thank God that my friend was there to talk me down and, make sure I didn't get hurt any further.
Now, tell me about that day at the WeSpa. Now, first of all, have you always been a conservative all your life, or is this? I'm interested. Also, you said 2013. It was almost like you were closeted in the sense that you were online, but not, out as a conservative. Tell me about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So it started out just me expressing my opinions in quiet forums, and then it grew into even as early as 2016, where I actually joined the local LGBT center and I helped them put on one of the most successful Pride events they ever had. And I got a lot of flack because I invited the NRA. I told them, hey, you should come and teach these LGBT people how to use guns. They are a, discriminated minority. We hear about hate crimes. Why not arm them? For me, that goes hand in hand. So I think I've always been a conservative. But even before that, I was also, I rode cowboy. I was rodeo. I was a cowboy guy. I rode bulls in the IGRA, the International Gay Rodeo Association. I rode 500-pound animals. So humans don't scare me. No one will scare me. Nothing scares me. So through that, conservative cowboy, I guess you could say, upbringing, that really created this character, this person that was willing to stand up for my own rights and for the rights of others. And so ultimately, my adventures led me to the WeSpa, where I heard about a person who had exposed themselves to children. And I saw the videos. I saw it went viral. I try to keep an objective opinion, but I've always understood that the gay community is always fighting the stigma of, oh, that's a pervert. Oh, don't go to your uncle's house. He likes little boys. I've always been very, very aware and cognizant of that. So when I hear about someone exposing themselves to children, I have to take a very visible and a very strong stance so that people don't misalign me and misrepresent me with that. And when I went to that event, I saw people in Black Bloc. I saw advertisements talking about how it was a trans issue when it was never a trans issue. I have lots of trans friends, and I discussed the issue of the we spot away from politics, away from the filter of the media, and all of them could agree that exposing yourself to children is inappropriate, regardless of whether you're trans, pre, post, heterosexual, cis, gay, lesbian. You don't walk around in a way that could be sexually suggestive, especially around underage people.
I've talked to many people too who are willing to have a reasonable conversation about WeSpa before all of that went down, as it was going down, and after. But unfortunately, the way that the Twitter universe works and the outrage that gets that manifests when you have militant activists trying to raise discontent, we don't have a reasonable conversation. So nobody was really willing to sit down and talk about anything. It seems that the moment that conservatives arrived on July the 3rd of this summer, 2021, they were attacked. Jairo was the first one who, and I've had him on the show and talked to him, who he was there with his bullhorn. Now, he also brandished pepper spray, which did escalate things.
Correct.
But ultimately, a whole bunch of people attacked him on the street. Now, not long after, I think within an hour and a half or so is when that clip occurred, where we see you. Tell us about what is happening here. Had you been on the scene at WeSpa long, or how did you come to see this woman?
Yeah, I grouped up with the rest of the patriots that were waiting at the park up the street, and we decided to walk down towards the WeSpa. And I'm not a person who's going to throw something at you. I'm not a type of person who's going to, kick you or attempt to hit you, but I will defend myself. As you can see from the video, I was very quick to stand up for myself after being attacked. So I use my words as my weapon, because words can't hurt you. Words are nothing more than sound vocalizations from my vocal cords. So I was out there saying things like, pedophile is not a sexual orientation. Sorry, hold on.
No worries.
Must have been. Hey, excuse me. Sorry about this, guys.
It's all right. So just so you all know, while Mario is attending to the canine, I will just sort of set this up. On July the 3rd, what happened was a viral video, if you do not know, sort of scorched the internet, in which a woman who's known as Cubana Angel complained, as there was somebody who was presenting as male with male genitalia who identified as female. We didn't know all the details at the time. You had rumors that were, The Blade, which is a LGBT publication in Los Angeles, came out and sort of theorized the whole thing was a hoax. That set on article after article, from Slate to The Advocate. Many articles were written that discredited any conservative that wanted to step up and say, we are for boundaries. And when I say we, I'm speaking for you all, because I'm actually not a conservative, but I think that was the message that I got, that boundaries in women's spaces needed to be discussed. And certainly you could tell me a little bit about what your platform was when you arrived. Now, a lot of you were accused of being transphobic. How do you respond to that?
I can't even be accused of being transphobic, because I wish I was wearing my heels that day, because most of the time when I go out on my activism, I wear heels, I wear stilettos, I wear something with a nice tall riser. I'm a short person, but I'm also, a very colorful individual. So I'm not afraid to wear that on my sleeve as a way to dispel the narrative that these are all homophobes, because if I can run with them, as outlandish as I am, doesn't that disprove the idea that they're homophobic? And not only that, they elevate me in ways that I could never even dream. I never even asked for. And I appreciate that. So I was out there just using my words, using my, P is not a part of the rainbow. There is no P in LGBTQ. Pedophile is not a sexual orientation. You don't expose yourself to children. And all I did was just wave my flag, use my megaphone. I had one Antifa actually pepper spray me. I have a video of that. I don't think you do. but I do have a video of them attempting to pepper spray me and then pepper spraying me. The marks are still on my bag. So I went home burning all over my back. And as we were all in full retreat, because what happened was some of the Black Bloc and some of the journalists, and you could see that the person who was pulling my flag from from my pole was holding a camera in her. She had a high resolution camera in her hand as she pulled my flag from it. Right there, you can see it. She's holding a camera. So how can she call herself a journalist when she's getting involved in the actual activism? And once the flag was gone, I lunged for her. I believe in equal rights. So if you're going to hit a man, you're going to have to realize that that man should have a very good right to hit you back. You can't hide behind the fact that I'm a woman, don't hit me because you're a man. I've seen plenty of gay men beat down a woman at a club because she gets a little handsy. And you know what? If it was a man doing it to a woman and she beat him and she clocked him, we would be clapping. We would be clapping. We would be excited. But because it's a woman doing it to a man and you don't expect him to retaliate, I will play that offense. I'm not afraid. And so when I went for her, she realized, oh God, I fucked up. And sorry, I don't mean to cuss on your show, but she dropped her flag. She dropped the flag immediately because she knew I was going to go for her.
So tell me, let's set this up. How did you even see this person? Now, I do want to interject. This has been a huge problem. We've had over a dozen attacks on press this summer. And a lot of that has to do with people who abuse the title of press or journalist, who show up, who have cameras, but who are not there honestly to discern the truth, but they're there to partake in the action. Now, clearly that woman, and we can disagree on what actions you took, whether it escalated things and so forth, but essentially that person was holding a camera and participating at the same time. That obviously puts other journalists in danger on either side, really. Whether you're a left activist or a right activist, if those lines are blurred, you start to get in a very dangerous situation. And I've certainly been targeted on both sides, quite frankly, as someone who's tried to be centrist and neutral as I go through spaces on the right and the left. Now tell me, how did this happen though? How did you were saying things, and did she come up to you?
Yes, they surrounded me. They basically got me into a position where I was alone, and then it was 2-on-1. And when all of a sudden she grabbed my flag, I turned my attention to him. He came at me from behind and started punching on me. So it was definitely, I didn't know right from left, and because we had separated, we gotten pushed back. We'd gone in as a group, and that one of our patriots ended up getting stabbed. So we started getting scattered, started separating because you needed to find the yes.
Well, I do have to bring that up because there seems to be two different incidents where there are knives. There's one where you see when people
this incident did have a knife. One person was injured by a knife. We don't know if it was one of us who accidentally did it or if it was one of them. I've seen both stories swirl around the internet, but someone was injured with a knife at the July 3rd incident. And so there was the Patriots trying to figure out, okay, what happened there? And so we all started to kind of go in separate directions because some of us had to triage that person who was injured while at the same time dealing with we'd already been pepper sprayed. We've been pepper sprayed already by Antifa and we're already in retreat. And they were continuously coming, and then they were moving in groups of two with cameras and a Black Bloc usually, and that you could see that partnership right there in my attack where there's a Black Bloc right there next to a press. So they could do what they wanted to and then portray the narrative that they want. Because we saw it just recently at the Netflix Dave Chappelle where they took that man's sign and they left him with a stick and then claimed that he held a weapon.
Gotcha. Now, time and time again, we do see that where misinformation is perpetuated on Twitter and it sort of takes on a life of its own. On July 3rd, however, you did bring up the knife. Now, I was there. I have looked at every bit of footage. I will say that the Black Bloc, what happened to you obviously was not unique that day. And that's what I find so disturbing is that the press isn't willing to report. Not only is the press not willing to report it or say or mention the Twitter account SoCal Antifa, which is the Twitter account that came to life in April 28th of this year. So it's a new Twitter account and served as kind of the rallying account for a lot of these, what they call counter actions, where they'll show up to a protest and they'll take physical action to shut down free speech,
Correct.
simply because they disagree with it. So what happened to you obviously was not unique because it was happening all over that morning. In the 10:30 a.m., I watched two preacher evangelical types.
Yes, I saw
There's
that.
the guy with the blue shirt. Now, the guy with the
Hmm.
blue shirt does come out at one point where he gets attacked. He goes to a woman gets a water bottle thrown. He goes out to confront the woman. I think physically,
Yeah,
much in the attitude that you took of this woman's physically harming someone else. He goes
right.
in, then he gets the skateboard smashed over him, and things get so violent that
Yep.
talking about the stabbing, the person that does stab two people, a woman from the right gets her arm cut, and then a man who is in the melee named Alejandro, who I've spoken to, was in the middle of it all, and he gets cut 3 times on
Hmm.
his legs. The person was never, you know, uh, held
Identified.
accountable. They were never identified, but they were in full like military ops block type, but working on the right wing sort of side of things. So when you see violence come out of your own side, how do you approach that?
Well, when I see violence coming from my side, oftentimes it's usually a response to violence done towards us. So it's usually more of a defensive. We saw what happened in Portland, where the bus, basically a truck full of Antifa, tried to drive through a protest, and ultimately the gentleman flipped over the truck and vandalized it because, hey, you're trying to drive through our protest. So, but they will highlight the burning truck. Look at them. Look at how monstrous they are. They've ruined this vehicle, completely forgetting the fact that they tried to drive that vehicle into a crowd full of people, just like they did this weekend at my rally here in Palmdale. A
There
crazed
was
leftist, yes, a crazed leftist tried to drive through a crowd of people and actually hit a woman. Thank God she wasn't killed. She has soft tissue damage. It's, mostly contusions. By the grace of God, that's all she had. But a person was so significantly upset by a red, white, and blue freedom rally with a rainbow there, a don't tread on me flag there, a Second Amendment, maybe someone holding Let's Go Brandon. He got so upset, he drove around the corner and hit a woman. It was on InfoWars this last Monday. It was on KTLA. It was on NBC. It was all over the place right on Monday, Tuesday. It was on the news story.
was this in Palmdale?
Yes, sir.
Okay, okay. I haven't seen the footage but that was a rally that you organized, correct? That
That
you
was a
were
rally that I didn't organize. I attended with with an
okay.
organization that I'm working very closely with.
There
So
you
there
go.
was a lot of my organization that I'm working with at that rally to support the original rally creators.
Okay. Now I do want to say now I was there in Portland. You were talking about August the 22nd. I was
Mhm.
there, and as press, I mean, there were fireworks that were being thrown at the right wingers and the press, like myself, who are
Right.
independent, right next to a gas station. Also, so a lot of my video captures that they completely mobbed this one young woman was actually a left leaning. Uh, Journalist named Marnie. I captured
Mhm.
that on film where I saw them completely attacking her. So yes, the violence is in excess and gratuitous and indiscriminate at some times when it comes from the black bloc, which makes it so kind of hazardous and
I mean, they're
ultimately
willing to attack
disturbing.
Arthur Pulowski. They're willing to attack a preacher and a bunch of families. That's the scary part, is that these people are willing to attack families out there trying to have a good time, and they do it in the cover of Black Bloc. They do it in the cover of a hit and run. They do it in the cover of a group of people, and then they disseminate falsehoods, just like they did when they shot Tiny, Tiny Tosit. He was a very prominent figure in the right wing conservative movement, and they shot him in the leg. And the first thing that came out on Twitter was he shot himself, he shot himself, he shot himself. I see the angle. He must misfired, and that's all that they ran with. Never mind the fact that the footage came out later and the suspect was arrested.
Yes, yes. And I was there I've been everywhere. I was there that day too in Olympia and shot video of Tiny. You're talking about Tiny 2SA, a member of the Proud Boys that
Mm-hmm.
was shot in the leg. Now, there are some details that I feel I must interject with. That day in Olympia was interesting because the Proud Boys actually pursued Antifa Black Bloc for zero point 0.8 miles. I did
Mhm.
my
Chase them
GPS and
around.
they chased him around. So what happened was the rally was being held that day. We're talking about September the 4th in Olympia at the Washington State Capitol. The Black Bloc met in a park about half a mile away. They marched. I actually took some video of them in the park, and then I kind of followed them, and then I went
Hmm.
around, and then the Black Bloc never showed up, and they kept not showing up. And I was waiting at the corner. There were other people that were looking. There were some scouts that were of the left faction. It was this very weird, bizarre thing. And then the Black Bloc just turned around and left. I think they realized they were so outnumbered. Now the Proud Boys decided to pursue them, and they decided to
Yeah.
go all the way across town. And at that point, I think a discussion needs to be held where the whole country understands what self-defense is. It's no longer
Right.
self-defense, unfortunately,
Right.
when you pursue somebody across, almost a mile across the city.
Right.
Mr. Toesi himself was part of a group that, the person who pulls out the firearm and shoots him also is going to have a hard time claiming self-defense because that person was over 20 feet away, had gotten
Mhm.
away through some bushes, had stopped, planted, pulled the gun, and then fired at the intended target. So,
Correct.
so I almost feel like everybody needs to have take a course where we all understand what self-defense actually is, because
Right.
what ends up happening is people then run with it and say, oh, well, it's defense, and defense. And you hear Antifa do this too, where they say, oh, it's community
Correct.
defense. Meanwhile, they're not defending anything. They're coming out as they did on July the 3rd at WeSpa
Correct.
in Los
Correct.
Angeles and
And
just
see,
attacking people.
right. And what Antifa does, that's a little bit even more beyond what the Patriots do. Because I mean, yes, we'll chase them down the street, but they actually put my information, my personal information on freeway overpasses. They put
Right.
flyers on July 18th at the second We Spa event. I got text messages from Patriots going, there's flyers here with your picture on them, calling you a transphobe, calling you this, and it has your personal address on it. And then they even went so far as to post my name and address on the marquee of the theater from down the street from the We Spa. So I don't really see Proud Boys or Patriots doing that type of stuff to Antifa. Tony Moon's car was vandalized the night before a very large event in Santa Monica. So we don't really do that type of stuff. I did see Chad Loader get served papers, and he was really upset because we showed the inside of his house, but he's over here tweeting about the homeless comrades that he has. I'm going, wait a second, if you're not going to live at your house right now, why don't you invite your homeless comrades to come stay at your house? I mean, that
Well,
seems like talking out your mouth on both sides.
wait a sec. I do have to point out you said we showed the
I say
house.
I say we because it was the Patriots. Everybody shared that video of the inside. I refrained that, but I used the royal we because I don't do it. I tried not to, but I saw it. I saw it on multiple accounts across the Instagram. I don't really have Twitter, but the Facebook universe, all of the socials, and I even see Chad Loader tweeting about how he's so insulted that they showed the inside of his house, but then his friends were like, "Oh, I like your frog shirt. That's cool."
Oh, yeah, he had a fuck the police shirt on with
Right,
frogs.
but then
Right,
he
right.
has the escort coming out of the courthouse.
Oh, you mean the sheriff's escorting
Yeah,
him in and out? Right, right. No,
exactly.
I,
So
I, I, I haven't had a chance to confront him on it, but he has tweeted ACAB, a good
yeah,
dozen times in the last year,
oh
and
yeah,
so it's interesting to see somebody then ask for deputy protection and so forth. And the people that he's asking for protection, the people who show up at these courts, it's like the last time that I went to cover the Chad Loader hearing, it was Tomas who gets a little barky with his questions, but
hmm,
Tomas is not going to attack you. And then it was like it was three people. It was literally three people, and he's getting these entourages because to escort him
because he's worried for his
in and
safety.
out. Yeah, I mean, a lot of this Twitter drama is manufactured. I mean, we know that
But
from
the Twitter
Weishaupt.
drama does manifest its way into reality. My own husband's business was tagged in one of Chad Loader's tweets to his 10,000 followers. And my husband's business is owned by
100,000. Yeah,
100,000. I'm
100,000.
sorry.
Yeah.
Whatever, however many followers. Twitter's insignificant in my eyes because, granted, it's a cesspool. It's gross. Sorry. I don't mean to offend any Twitter user who loves Twitter, but it
We're
sucks.
on Twitter. We're streaming on Twitter right now. So,
I love you guys, but
and
I hate you
YouTube.
guys. Um,
Twitter. Well, that's what's happened is that we're so bifurcated and separated now that right wing activists are on Instagram and leftists are on Twitter, and
correct.
they're living in two different. And they come and they peek at each other's stuff so that they can repost it. But obviously, we're dealing with a kind of tit for tat information warfare where people are exaggerating. And I do want to go back to August 22nd. One thing that you should know about the van that came into the Proud Boys rally, and that was Proud Boys were significant organizers of the August 22nd Portland uh, um, rally. And the other thing to know about the Antifa Black Bloc is they traveled 12 miles that day. I was pointing out Olympia, 2 weeks later, but on August the 22nd, they were having their rally on the waterfront. They had set it up at the Salmon Springs Creek, fountain or whatever it's called, right there at the Tom McCall Waterfront Park, so that they would be less than a mile away from the original location that the Proud Boys were going to hold their rally, the park where the families
Right.
were attacked
Right.
during the 2 weeks before that, in a,
Right.
Christ, a
I,
Christian
I
a Christian
I
event.
watch all the streams and I'm in
You've seen
all
it
the
all.
chats, so
You've seen it all.
I've
So
seen it
it's
all.
so
It's
what
really
it's
good.
really crazy. What's really crazy is that it doesn't get covered. It's only talked about on programs like this, where we say, "Hey, did you know in August a whole bunch of Christian families showed up, in the middle of the park, and then they were attacked." A lot of people don't know that in Portland. You know,
And people ask me as Morio Presents, where do you get your news? Where do you get your information? And you know what I tell them? I watch live streams. I watch live streams as they happen. I hear about events and I watch live streams. I figure out who's going to go to those events and I watch the live streams and I watch the news as it happens when it's happening because I'm going to get an unfiltered information and I'm going to watch both sides. I'm going to watch Black Bloc as they're running away. I'm going to watch the Proud Boys as they're chasing them. I'm going to watch the innocent people as they're running scared so that I get all the information because my name is Mario Presents. I want to present a good picture based on the perspective that I have. And the perspective that I have is as much as I possibly can get. I don't see things as just black and white. I know that people on the right don't like me. I know that people on the right make fun of me for my shoes, and I could give a rat's. I tell them all the time, I don't do it to be sexy because if I was doing it to be sexy, I'd be wearing my heels with shorts or with something really cute. I don't. I wear them with pants. I do it for a height. I do it because it's counter a narrative that says that I can't do it. It's also a man's original footwear because men's were the original ones who started heels. The kings of old wore heels to show that they were not only above in higher in stature, but also to accentuate their calves. Because if you were a nobleman, you were riding horses. You had nice, good calves. Kings didn't have that, but they wanted to make pretend they did. So you wear a heel to give yourself a bigger calf. There's a whole myriad of reasons, but it's never been about sex. It's for just a show. I can do it. And
so
there's no one in the world's going to stop me.
so do you find that the right activist crowd is tolerant of that, or you said that you do know that there are some people
Yeah,
who take a take
for I
take
would say about 80-90% of them are tolerant of it. They completely get it. But I get the 10%, the Groypers, the Kim Sorgentis. I know you know who I'm talking about when I say that name. The Nick Fuentes, the Groypers, the ones who are super overtly Christian, the Arthur, because I know you have a crowd who leans towards the left. Art, he's a very prominent conservative. He and I have had words over my shoes. But for the most part, people understand that I don't do it because I enjoy it. It's not a joyful thing for me. It's like I gotta put the shoes on again because it's like once you start something, you gotta see it through, and I'm gonna see it through. But sometimes, some days, it's just like, how do I put them back on? I pick my battles. Like when I was here in the corner of my community, they know that I do it. They don't need to see me in it, and not to mention the roads. are terrible. I'm going to kill myself walking in those things in stilettos. They completely understood that I was wearing flats on Saturday. But there's other times where I will risk walking down cobblestone in shoes that are like this because it's the effect that it's going to have on the press who says, look at that, it's a right-wing rally, look at how awful, which is exactly why I wore the buns at that one event that we were both at, where it was to counter a narrative, because you say, oh, look at these guys, they're all homophobes, but yet you have this flaming guy with two little Mickey Mouse buns and a rainbow shirt and a rainbow flag. Where
Yeah. Now I'm gonna play a little video of that. Let's take a look. Not to put you on the spot, but I was standing right next to you, and we'll discuss this clip because it gets a little contentious with a reporter who you mistake for the woman that or you.
Well,
Or
no,
you
I know who she is. I
okay.
didn't mistake her for her. I know she was there in attendance, and I called her out for not sharing my story on her channel. And I wanted her to share it. And I even put my phone of the attack so she could see it and she could share it. And she ended up editing that out. She did not post it. She does not want to share that story, this story that you just told of them attacking me, with her audience. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, and then the person we're talking about is Tina Desiree Berg, who I actually that day I was saying, look, she has a right to film, and we'll get into what my position is when it comes to obstructing cameras and so forth. But we'll talk a little bit about that. Let's.
That's right. That's right. And why did you? Yes, you do. Yes, you do. Yes, you do. Yes, you do. You know exactly who did that. Look at that. Look at that. Her media people. This is what they call media. That woman has a camera. She has a camera in her hand and is pulling my flag from its pole.
Who is?
The woman in this video.
I don't know who that
Okay,
is.
an Antifa militant has a camera in her hand and is pulling my flag from my pole. Okay, that is not media. That's not the actions of what media does. She is
That
with
is
these
not
people.
me. I don't even know
Are
who
you
this
kidding me?
is.
Look at it. Look at it. Yeah, it's a camera woman.
But you guys, you
pulling a
can't
flag.
control who follows you.
No,
You know what I mean?
we can't.
At the end of the
No,
day,
we can't.
at
But
the
we
end
can
of the day,
discourage them from actually giving a false narrative, because they're the ones who told the media that Tiny shot himself. Antifa media said that Tiny shot himself, when 3 weeks later we pulled the footage from the bus station, and we saw an Antifa pull a gun from their waistcoats and actually shoot Tiny. So they twisted it right then and there. This is what we do. So we're controlling our narrative by telling her we don't even want your story, because your story is obviously going to be wrong. Your story is whatever you
You're the
want
reason
it to
why
be.
nobody trusts the media.
You're the reason.
Bear mace is illegal. I today. Bear mace by your people. I don't even carry bear mace.
I got hit by my own flagpole by your people.
Who are my people?
Antifa.
Those aren't my people.
They are your people. They are your people, Tina. I see you out there with them.
all right, that was contentious. That was the most excitement actually of that day in some ways, because what ended up happening was none of the Antifa groups that mobilize on Twitter, and there's three main ones in Southern California: SoCal Antifa,
Abra Foothills.
well, that's more of an activist account that's not specifically an anti. See, this is where it gets a little bit more complicated. You have leftist activists, and then you have full-on Antifa black bloc advocates. And there are three primary accounts for that. There's the AARF LA, which is the autonomous anarchist whatever, something front, probably. The AARF LA is the big anarchist account. Then you have the new SoCal Antifa account. Then you also have one that was the Southwest Youth Liberation Front. That's connected to Pacific Northwest Youth Liberation Front, which is one of the primary, this all black bloc accounts in Portland. So none of those accounts mobilized. And then if you talk about people like Chad Loder, who are, kind of influencers, none of them were mobilized around any sort of action. And that may have to do with certain legal actions that surround people like Chad and Vishal right now. But there was nothing that mobilized. So when we play that clip, it's important to know and to say that this rally didn't have conflict in it. It didn't have fighting. This was a Proud Boys co-organized patriot/rally that did not manifest any violence. You know, the only thing that you had is
I ended up.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Finish.
I was just saying a car did get scratched up with someone scratched Antifa into a car. So there was, you know, one or two, you know, vandal types there. But
And
what
I
were you gonna
did
say?
talk down, and it was like there was an incident that happened. I think it happened just before the clip that you showed. I have it on my shoulder camera of a group of people who were just walking by. They didn't know what was going on. They and to give your audience a description, you had the event, and then there's this walkway, and just on the other side of the walkway were gates to kind of tell people stay away from this event. It wasn't like the gates didn't go all the way across, but it was just to dissuade people and to encourage people to go, the public to go here, and to say that there's a private event happening near this stage that you probably don't want to go near. And these people were on the other side of the fence watching. And I walked over to them and I asked them, hey, are you guys interested? Would you want to know what's going on? Blah, blah, blah. Do you want to know who the Proud Boys are? And I explained to them who they were, at least from my perspective, and for how they stand behind me. They stand, they protect me, that I protect them. It's a mutual relationship. I don't see them as homophobic, or anti-immigrant, or, racist, because I'm a child of immigrants. I'm Hispanic. Happen to be 69% indigenous Purepecha Indian, so, uh, so we're good friends. And so I was explaining to these people what the event was all about. It was just about freedom, just these people getting together and enjoying themselves and listening to the speakers. So they went from being on the outside of the gate to the inside of the gate. And from being on the inside of the gate, they were kind of wandering about right about where you were, on the outer edges where all the Antifa press, because they didn't really want to be part of the event, but they were interested enough that they wanted to hear the speakers. So in doing so, they're listening, and all of a sudden one of them takes out their phone and starts, taking pictures. And, at an event with high alert, where we've already been, they're telling us they're going to dox us. They tell us they're going to be infiltrators. We're on high alert. All of a sudden, one of the security guards starts asking the questions like, are you Antifa? Da, 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 da. And these people don't know how to answer the question. So I heard the commotion and I rushed over there because I saw that those were the people that I was talking to on the other side of the gate. So I rushed over to them. I said, no, let me talk to them. Let me see what's going on. And, they said, well, they were asking if we were Antifa. We don't know how to answer that question because we don't know. So I said, well, let's take it a step back. Let's look at each other from a outside point of view. We have, when I described them, the male had a big lock chain, had gauged earrings, big flashy sunglasses. The female had the Betsy Ross haircut with the long straight hair and the red lips, and the tank top with the leopard on. It just looks, you don't look like a patriot that you would normally expect someone to be a right winger. So for them, seeing someone like that taking photos put them on high alert, like, whoa, what's going on? And so I had to go in and tell them, like, they're on high alert because of what happened to me over there. Because I was actually, you could say verbally assaulted, but I don't care. This black bloc told me that I deserved getting hit at the Wii Spot. And those people had heard me. They had heard him tell me that. And they realized, like, oh, these people are all the good people, and the Antifa black bloc are the ones who are really trying to hurt them. And so that's why they're on high alert. So
when was this that the black bloc said something like that?
It happened at the very beginning of the rally, right as I arrived, because all the black bloc was on the other side of the gate. And so I ran over and I was giving them my business card.
We're talking about San Pedro?
San Pedro. Yeah, I have this on film.
There weren't, I know what you're talking about. There were two.
Yeah, the two little boys, the one with the cover, with the press.
I guess they were from San Francisco or something.
Yeah, whatever. Whoever they, I don't know.
Yeah.
But
so yeah.
Yeah, so that little one that was all covered up walked up to me and goes, oh, let me tell you about your boy Sean. And he shows me his phone and he shows me pictures of my friend Sean, the Proud Boy Sean from Central Valley. And I go, oh, Sean, he's my friend. And he just said hi to me. We're totally cool. What's going on? I said, well, let me tell you about your friends. And I showed him a picture of me being attacked. I said, these are your friends. And he didn't want to have that conversation. I said, your friends attacked me at the Wii Spa. And his next words were, oh, well, you probably deserved it. And the people that were standing right next to me that I, had ultimately, it was my first meeting, their jaws dropped. Like you really are going to tell this little bubbly person that he deserved to get hit? Like So that was what kind of helped spur them to be closer. And then once they're closer, they start taking photos, and that was a mistake on their part. And I explained to them why it was a mistake. We have to understand prejudices. Just like we're prejudiced with Proud Boys, they are prejudiced with us if we're not wearing American stuff. They automatically think that you're with the opposition, and you can't stop a snap judgment from happening. Snap judgments happen for a reason. They're the reason why when you're walking down the alley in the dark and someone comes around the corner, you tense up. You don't mean to tense up, but that's a snap judgment that happens natural as a course of bodily preservation. That's just a human nature. But we can overcome those snap judgments by realizing that those snap judgments can be wrong, but they are there to protect us. And if we can recognize the difference, we can then move forward. And I help these people recognize the difference. And by the end of the rally, they were standing right there next to the stage, enjoying talking to people. Hi, how are you? Oh, we live right down the way. It's so cool that, we would have never known that you guys were like this. We thought you guys were mean and racist.
Okay.
There you go.
You're talking about the two people. You said one of them had a Betsy Ross haircut. Did you mean?
Yeah, like the little bangs
Betty
and
Davis or
Betty Davis. There you go. Betsy Ross, Betty Davis, whatever.
Yeah. I don't know.
I'm the worst gay man ever, I swear. Other than wearing heels really well.
So they, okay, I see what you're saying. They had preconceptions. You were able to dispel them, invite people in. When people say to you, though, hey, you're at a Proud Boys rally, I heard that Proud Boys are racists, that they're, if not racist themselves, that they tolerate white supremacists or are adjacent. How do you answer that question?
No, I can answer that question very simply. The Palmdale chapter of the Proud Boys, because we are so close to the prison, there was a lot of Peckerwood that infiltrated, and they disbanded that group for that reason.
Okay, you use the word Peckerwoods. You mean like racists? Is that what you mean?
Like the racist gang, the Peckerwoods. Yes,
right.
They infiltrated into the Proud Boys, and that Proud Boy chapter was dissolved immediately.
I see what you're saying. See, this is the thing that, obviously there are these okay, so you have this Proud Boys, and they seem to be linked. I was at a rally in September in New York, and quite openly, the Proud Boys were the ones who were working the security detail for the rally. It was a rally to call attention to political prisoners from January the 6th. And I was covering this rally. Of course, the Antifa groups in New York City, Antifa showed up. They were all there in black bloc. They threw a couple eggs. It was the big difference that I noticed was that in LA, getting back to this subject of Antifa press or press that are aligned, we just saw that war of words with Tina Desiree. Tina Desiree will not admit, and I would love to have her on the show. I would press her with difficult questions too, in the sense that she will not admit that she is aligned with the Antifa movement, which is the anti-fascist movement. That's those who are the militants that have been dressing up head to toe in black, rioting in 2020. In 2021, what we saw in LA, they were just, going after conservatives and jumping them, quite frankly, is what happened in Wispa on the 3rd of July. Now, at that moment, what's wrong with just letting people, because I saw this over the last 2 months, these Antifa groups have not mobilized on Twitter. What's wrong with just letting them show up and take as many pictures and say as much BS as they want to? If they're, what's wrong with not even just giving them the free tour? Why get in their face? Why give them the story that they want, that they can spin? In other words, now they could spin that you put your flag in front of Tina Desiree's camera and you shut down.
They didn't like. They don't talk about it though. They won't talk about it. Antifa's not talking about my flag. They don't want to even recognize my flag, which is why I'm playing the same game that they play. Because should we show up? Should Tommy Morales show up to an Antifa event? Do you think they would let him anywhere near it? If Jairo showed up to an Antifa or a Black Lives Matter event, do you think they would let him anywhere near it?
No.
Okay, so it's tit for tat. Unfortunately, it's gotten to that point because we don't want them to perpetuate a false narrative simply by being at the event. If you want to take a picture of the event, take it from as far away as we will let you. because
Yeah.
we don't want you anywhere near. We don't want you misconstruing our words. We don't need you falsely editing our videos, because that's exactly what they do to Project Veritas, a very well-known news organization. The regular media calls it fake news, calls them, selectively editing, when in reality, we're seeing them actually show real live things that are happening, undercover videos, and the media just goes, and who's writing for them, Tina? Who's writing for them, Nick? Okay,
Writing for the media that dismisses right wing. So Project
welcome.
Veritas is and I certainly have different opinions on different pieces that they do. That's the one that started when they dressed up as pimps years ago and went to Acorn, and that brought Acorn down. Um, uh,
And most notably, right now, they're bringing down Pfizer executives. They have Pfizer executives on undercover camera because they go on dates with these cute young women and they just spill their guts. They're spilling out their guts, saying that the vaccine doesn't work. I'm not going to get it. We know that we're not even talking about natural immunity, and we're not even supposed to discuss it on the corporate level. That's all on film.
It's interesting because there's also, I think Project Veritas also did that thing where they found the school teacher who wanted to radicalize in Sacramento, wanted to radicalize his students and said he would.
And that's not uncommon. I found a radical
credit.
teacher in my community. I found an Antifa teacher in my community. He's not an actual teacher. He's actually an administrator, but I've already found one in my community. He actually recorded a video on campus in a the three arrows that they point down with the circle. Right. That one, wearing that on campus, recording a video. For children.
So do you think the reason that the Proud Boys exist is because Antifa exists? In other words,
yes.
Yes. Because it seems to be, but what seems to be happening, and I'm really concerned about upcoming political races when it comes to 2022, 2024. What is that going to look like? What do you see if talking to the general audience who is, and I see that just by the chat that there are people who are definitely aligned with that hard right pro Proud Boys mentality, but is what do you tell the normies about how things look right now?
For the normies, I see a lot more, not extremist, okay, because we're going to have a lot more moderate candidates, but we're going to have moderate candidates who may look very different. And that's going to be the key to winning these races, because it's not about right or left. It's about what's right, what's about correct, what's about, it's about our freedoms, 100%. And you're going to see more groups like the Proud Boys pop up in response to the violent aggression that these normies are having to their pro-freedom rallies. They're anti-vax. They want the choice to decide for themselves. And then we have Black Bloc showing up and trying to infiltrate, try to disrupt, try to misconstrue their event. So the right has to create their own security force. And the Proud Boys didn't actually start for no reason. The Proud Boys started because Trump supporters were getting the crap beat out of them leaving Trump rallies. That's why the Proud Boys were starting. They started so that they could protect those normal people walking back to their cars. They didn't exist. It was Gavin McInnes and Milo Yiannopoulos who have now they're a little crazy, but they still, just like a broken clock, it's still right twice a day. I don't even say that I'm completely far right, because there are some things that I can say that I agree with Obama with. Obama talked about the destruction of the nuclear family and the importance of a father in the Black home. I completely agree with that. I completely agree with that there should be two parents in every home, not just a father, but a father, a mother, a father, a father, a mother, a mother, because a nuclear family to me is more important and is more stable than any other family that there is. So for me, it's more about what's right and for the protection and for the future success of the next generation. And for me, what I see is the Proud Boys defending the normies who just want to have a rally, who just want to go out there and not get run over by a car, not get stabbed by a person in Black Bloc, not have their flag ripped off their pole because the flag, the snake, and the rainbow don't go together. That's why the Proud Boys were started. And if you look at their tenets are anti-racist. Their tenets are venerating the housewife, because if a woman wants to give up her life outside the home to raise children, why wouldn't you worship the ground she walks on? That's what it means to venerate the housewife. Not saying that she has to
I
do
know,
it, but if
yeah,
she chooses to do
and
it,
some of this is I get the idea. This is we're getting into like a subculture here when it
yeah,
comes to the activist subculture. Now, the activist subculture is very strong on the left and has been for years, going back to the '60s. And now the right has come up with this sort of activist subculture, and it's hard to tell when certain things are jokes, when certain things are, because they did. I know that there was a comment made at that rally about venerating. Who wants to venerate? And that clip went viral. Who wants to venerate a housewife? There are all these, eligible bachelors and so forth. So, some stuff is said kind of tongue in cheek. What about if you're going to get to the real stuff that the leftists are able to use as ammunition, though? When people make racial jokes, for example, there's a video of Tiny Tawezi that's going around in which
all about the
he talks about the Holocaust in a tongue-in-cheek kind of way. They're laughing. I don't know the context exactly of who he's talking to, but it's very when looked at, it can be well, it's rattling, and it's concerning, and it's disturbing. It's all these other things.
right.
How do you deal with someone like that? That's somebody who you stand next to during rallies. Pushing the envelope of free speech, or worse.
Yeah,
How do you deal with that?
I deal with it because I say jokes are funny. Jokes are funny.
Do you think he
you
was
know so
joking?
yes, it was a joke, and that's the thing, is people misconstrue jokes all the time. We're seeing it with Dave Chappelle. We're seeing it with these people going saying, oh my god, it's so horrible that you're being so mean to trans people. Never mind the fact that the Twitterverse bullied Daphne to death. The
Well,
Twitterverse bullied that woman for 6 days until she ultimately killed herself. Now I don't know if it was bully side, but I'm gonna say it was bully side. And so the left is king of that. So what they're doing is they will misconstrue a clip. And the Proud Boys believe in ultimate free speech. I use the F word all the time. My friends use the F word all the time. My black friends use the N word all the time. And so, but I understand when it's appropriate, when it's not. And when we're in private company, we're having a great time. It sucks that someone would put a video of someone's private life out there. That's one of the reasons why even my little group in Southern California, my little band of patriots, we don't take videos of each other. We don't post them. We got really upset at one of them and told them, don't you ever tag us, don't ever post videos of us, because we don't need the rest of the world to see our private life, because Antifa's not putting out their private life. They're not talking about the awful things they say about Christians. They're not talking about the awful things that they say about me behind the camera, because I guarantee you they do, because they've said it to me to my face off camera.
I see. I see what you're saying. I think that you know, it's what we're seeing right now is that people are looking for anything to jump on their political adversary and cancel them, get rid of them. I don't understand, and I'm able to talk to the right much more than the leftists, the true leftists who go out there. They don't want to talk about this stuff. They don't want you to say, "Hey, what do you expect? Are you expecting to convert everybody to be leftists all of a sudden? What is it to think exactly like you?" And you brought up the Dave Chappelle special, and I didn't go. I was out of town, so I was not able to attend the Netflix walk out and document and talk to people there. But I would be curious how many people actually watch that special. You mentioned the name of the person who
Dave
opened for
Chappelle's
Dave
friend.
Chappelle, his
Dave
friend.
Chappelle's friend.
Yes, his friend that he talks about, and and bully side. I mean, Chappelle doesn't go so far as to say it, but I certainly that the whole week that what that is, and what happens to people when they get ganged up on Twitter. Those were
She's
the
not the only
issues.
one.
Those were the
She's not
issues
the
that
only
were
one,
being
dude.
brought in the special, and that people won't even talk about that, or probably didn't even watch the special to the end to know that was even a major part of that piece, you know?
But again, the media suppresses these stories. Why? Because it doesn't fit the narrative. Gavin Wilson was a little young conservative activist in Australia last year who threw himself in front of a train after he was caught on film in front of a drag queen going, "Drag is not for kids, drag is not for kids." And he was screaming that at the drag queen. He went viral. And Antifa, the left, the Twitterverse, basically bullied that young man. And ultimately, that night, he threw himself in front of a train and killed himself. That happened. It happens a lot more than you think. The Twitterverse is a cesspool, which is the exact reason why I don't have a Twitter.
I have seen the way that it's misused and the way that influence is misused on Twitter is very disturbing, and the way that it manifests itself in real life, because that's what I think what we have seen is that time and time again, outrage foments violence, which foments street violence, or the violent words then become violent actions.
Right. I mean, I'm labeled a Central Valley militia member. I don't even live in the Central Valley. I live in the Los Angeles County. But because I wore a Central Valley militia shirt from my friend Sean, who gave it to me, because he is a Proud Boy, and he asked me, which one do you want? Do you want the one that says Proud Boys on the back, or do you want the one that says a child is 66% more likely to catch to be picked up by human traffickers than to catch coronavirus and die? I said, I choose the latter one. I choose the one about the coronavirus. I think that's more horny. And I'm not a Proud Boy. I'm not one of you. But Chad Loder and his 107,000 followers claim that I'm a Central Valley militia member and my husband's a racist, and they're trying to destroy my husband's business, which was built by an immigrant Guatemalan woman who immigrated here when she was 18. She knows exactly what I do. She knows exactly what I've done. And she's horrified. She's like, who is this person? Why is this person trying to ruin my business? And he's claiming that he's a defender of immigrants, but yet he's trying to destroy an immigrant's business who stands 100% behind me. And says, yeah, leave him alone. He's not my employee. He's my employee's husband. He can do whatever he wants. My employee provides a great service. What else do you want?
And how was your husband's information and business information put out there? This was tweeted?
Chad Loder.
And this was tweeted?
Chad Loder tweeted it, yes.
Okay. Now, interestingly enough, Chad Loder tweeted about the banner drop that you described. I think it was July the 17th, because I think it was 2 weeks after.
Correct. It was the 16th.
So it might have been
16th,
the
17th,
17th, because the third was We Spa 1. 2 weeks later to the date, I believe, the 17th would have been We Spa 2.
So it would have been the 17th. You're right. Yeah. It would have been that morning.
That morning, and I was walking around that morning photographing the graffiti and the banner drop that they did at that theater on the marquee. And Chad Loder tweeted it. Now, he redacted the address. Your name is up there.
Correct.
And said, well, somebody must have used a ladder, was Mr. Loder's joke. Now, later that day, he is in Black Bloc. We see him, and I captured video of him in that crowd in Black Bloc, discussing with a centrist live streamer named Villain Report from the Pacific Northwest, has a discussion with him, and I'm standing right there, and I turn my camera, not knowing that it's him at the time. But the familiarity, in other words, the cavalier nature with which all of these doxings are tweeted are very disturbing to my invading people's private lives, their livelihood. And this was the point of the Chappelle special, was when you go after people's livelihood, their work, and you try to debase or defame them based on out of context comments and labels that won't necessarily stand scrutiny. The other thing Chad Loder did was he launched a campaign against an indigenous Native American card carrying member of a tribe up north in Sonoma County had infiltrated there was a pig's head drop where a bunch of leftist activists dropped pig's head and blood on what they thought was the front doorstep of a cop, which would make it right nonetheless. It turned out
but they did it to the wrong person.
They did it to the wrong person. Chad Loder exposed
innocent
activist. Well, and he's not even right wing. He describes himself more as a centrist or swing voter type that supported Andrew Yang, and he was against sort of woke, militant wokeness, I guess is another way we can describe all this. But the group called Sonoma County Radical Action, he had infiltrated and recorded their conversation and went on a local TV station and told this story. His identity was then exposed by Chad Loder, who launched a campaign by going through all his tweets that were found problematic. Next thing you know, people are calling this guy a neo-Nazi. And there's no ethno-nationalist bone in this indigenous person's body. This is somebody who was against the kind of woke militancy, and then sure enough gave them enough of a to work with, where they were able to get, he was able to be, he lost his job, he lost his position on city council, so a committee. So we've seen this time and time again, where people go after people's livelihoods rather than debate them with any sense of courage in the public square. The idea is to just eliminate them. And if any leftist, because few and few exist that are willing to go on a show like this and talk, like many from the right, like yourself, will talk to me and discuss these issues, whereas many from the militant left will not. And the question becomes, well, you on the militant left, what are you going for? What is your goal? Are you really looking to change minds or just get off? Because it sounds like, from what I could tell, that's all you're doing, is you're getting off on the power of ruining people's lives, taking people down, or just hurting them physically, dressed head to toe, where you think no one will find out who you are. But more and more, you're finding that there is accountability. That I think the reason that this movement counteraction died down locally in LA at the end of the summer was there was nobody, that people were being held accountable. People were getting arrested.
Well,
People in
the
Portland
Patriots,
are getting arrested.
I hate to say it, but the Patriots were also stepping up and doxing the doxers. We didn't put their information out there on our Twitter feeds or on our Instagrams, but we shared it among ourselves. I know where Vishal lives. I know where Chad Loder lives. I have all these addresses. I know where Jeremy. I know where what is it? Jeremy.
Jeremy.
No, not you. There's another. The trans activist who actually assaulted Jairo. Hyro.
Oh, really? Hyro?
The woman in the dress, in the blue and pink dress.
Oh, I know who you're talking about. Okay.
Her name is Jeremy.
Oh, no. Well, her name is Jamie.
Jamie.
Her name is Jamie. She's Jamie.
I've got her information. I've got all these people's information. These people who assault us, I get that information. They send that to me but I'm not going to share it with anybody. But it's for my protection, because should something happen, I have it. I have a little black book.
So is the idea that if they're out there doxing people on the right, having their information acts as a poker chip to then say, well,
litigation, should the case come, I have all the information should litigation come.
I see.
I know where to find you.
Serve
That's
papers.
Right.
That's right. And that's what we're seeing is some of these lawsuits that are coming out. It's going to be interesting to see how they play out, but people are being sued for harassment. It's debatable. I don't know how much merit the cases have. I haven't seen any evidence yet, but a lot of those will take place next year. Excuse me, in January. So we are seeing that. Now, I guess it feels like, well, I keep asking, where does this go? It just keeps it seems like we're on this merry-go-round that we just can't get off of, in the sense that what does the right wing want? What does the activist right want? Like, you were able
activist right wants the freedom to move about their country without a vaccine passport, without being forced to take a jab. The activist right wants the rights of the parents back, because there has been a long-standing tradition within the media and within leftist activism that your children don't belong to you. We should educate your children because we know what's better for your children than you do. What if you're shitty parents? 90% of the parents are good parents. Okay. But the leftists are acting like 90% of the parents don't know what's best for the kids. So that's why we need to educate them. We need to teach them about sex. We need to teach them about genders. We need to teach them about race. We need to teach them about these things. They will learn this stuff, but we're indoctrinating our children very, very young. So these conservatives are very concerned with the future of the education of their children when there's a huge division happening, and the person putting the division, is creating division, is the school who's separating the parents from the kids. That's where things are going, and that's the scariest part. Conservatives really just want lower taxes. They want lower gas. They want, again, freedom of choice, freedom of bodily autonomy, and the left say, oh, you're stealing our mantra. But again, pregnancy isn't just about you. There's multiple avenues. And I won't say anything bad about, abortions or, a woman's right to choose, because I'm a man and I really have no skin in the game. I hate you all. I'm a gay man at that. I hate you. I hate all the vagina, all equally. But as a gay man, I also value life, because I can't create life. So instead of aligning myself with a group like Planned Parenthood, I align myself with CareNet, which is a women's pregnancy resource. For women who are pregnant, if they don't want to have the abortion, this resource gives them the neonatal vitamins, the prenatal care, the ultrasound, the baby shower, the postnatal care, the parental lessons, the food, the formula, everything they're going to need to have that baby. And if they want to keep it, they're going to keep it. That's great. If they want to set it up for adoption, they've got all the resources for that. And if they want to find faith, they can find faith. This is a group that I would much rather promote, than Planned Parenthood, which is down the street.
So let me see if I can understand a little better. Do you think that the right has become more tolerant in the last 10 years as far as in regards to issues such as choice? Because you said my body, my choice. In regards to abortion, do you think the right has become more tolerant to other positions?
I think the right still holds true to the fact that they do not like abortions whatsoever. It's not for them. But there's a lot of people in the moderate right who say, well, while we say it's not for us, we're not going to infringe, but they also want to talk about rational limitations. I followed the Kermit Gosnell case very, very closely when it happened, and I was horrified about what happened at his abortion clinic. This was a legal abortion clinic. This place was disgusting. This place was never inspected, and it wasn't inspected for years. The man actually directed and diverted health inspections and safety inspections to other locations that were cleaner, that weren't going to, so he could continue running his underground clinic. And they're saying, oh, well, if you shut them all down, you're going to end up with people doing it in hangars in the alleys. This man was allowed to do essentially the same thing, maim women, leave them sterile, and he did it under the guise of a legal clinic. And the only reason he wasn't inspected was because anybody who had any sort of inkling to try and look in there instantly turned away and said, well, you know what, if we shine the light on this, it's going to shine the light on the entire industry, and we'd rather look away. And that was one of the things that was in the grand jury. I read the whole thing from start to finish. It was really tragic. But again, this is part of the activism. The conservatives don't want to see another Kermit Gosnell. They want to preserve life. We have the scientific capability to incubate a child born at 24 weeks. We have that capability. Babies are born even as early as 18 and 19 weeks. So why would we legally destroy something that's viable and can actually have life? Barring some sort of medical condition or safety, if we can remove it and incubate it the rest of the way, why wouldn't we? Why would we want to dismember and dispose of this living being inside of a person?
And in regards to, I mean, you joked earlier about when it came to choice and so forth, but is there more tolerance when within the right wing, when more moderates have a different opinion about a choice, for example?
Oh yeah, I see it. I see the division, but I also see that they, like I said, they can agree that there are necessary limits on the overall abortion. They can all agree that it's bad, it's wrong, but outlawing it one way is going to be one problem. making it fully available is another. And so finding someplace in the middle, and that's where the moderates are kind of bringing in the other ones. And ultimately, for some of the far right ones, their goal is to completely outlaw it. And if they want to do that in the state, I'm not even going to focus on any of that, because that's not my argument, because I don't make children.
So when the Texas legislation, for example,
Right.
comes up, you stay out of it. Is that
I'm
sort
going
of
to
your
stay out of
position?
it.
That's your position. Okay, got you. Hey, it's everybody has the right to pick their battles, so to speak.
Right. Right.
Uh,
But yeah, like I said, but ultimately for me, it's about supporting groups like CareNet. CareNet here in my local community that has saved 156 babies in the last year.
gotcha. Now we're going to wrap up pretty soon, so I want to make sure we get to cover all of the topics that you want to discuss. When it comes to what how this summer went, and we saw violence at WeSpa 1, WeSpa 2. The police ended up getting in the way and keeping the two groups apart. Were you there that day on the 17th?
No,
So you weren't there.
no,
That was the day that your name was hung from a banner, but you weren't there yourself. Were you there at
no.
City Hall? Did you see City Hall on August the 14th? That was the date that a huge brawl erupted. Now,
Yeah.
that brawl erupted because a person named Ben went across the street and kind of, provoked a little bit. Next thing you know, you have a full-on street brawl. Somebody is stabbed from the Patriot right. You also have people that were using blunt objects and different objects. One of them looked sharp, that were on the right. So this violence seems to be. Do you feel any responsibility to talk down violence as you see it?
Yeah,
What's that?
absolutely. That's why I did it in San Pedro.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's on camera. Me literally talking down violence, and then all the security going up to those people and saying, "We've sincerely apologized. We misrepresented ourselves. This is not who we are. We have certain precautions, and we apologize." And they all apologize. One of them even went back a second time to apologize because he felt so terrible about how he got extremely aggressive with his persona and towards these people who were just genuinely curious. So yeah, I see it.
Now, we mentioned. I mean, we saw that clip with Tony Moon. Tony Moon seemed to be very much a point person for security with his,
Hmm.
roof Korean entourage. Really, it's
Yeah.
become that day in San Pedro. Now, Tony Moon was having a discussion with Tina Desiree. The one thing that's interesting is that, well, he grabbed her mask off of her on August the 14th, and uh, that there's lots of debate about when you exposing somebody's identity who's using a mask and hiding behind it, but there an action like that on tape, as I've watched it several times, seems unnecessary. That
Hmm.
what happens when the people who are in charge of security take excessive action or use excessive force?
Well, when the people in charge of security use excessive force, oftentimes there's an underlying reason for it. In his case, it was to unmask a person who's hiding behind a mask, claiming to
but
be,
but she was just
you know.
filming. She was just filming.
So,
Now she's biased and she's partisan. We know that, but she's filming. I mean, you guys have people who are
right,
biased and
right.
partisan
And I mean,
on
we've
your
had
side.
people move through our crowd. I've seen them get unmasked, even just kind of moving through the crowd. They want to. It's for people's safety. It's really honestly for people's safety, for us to know who you are. If you're taking photos of patriots, trying to dox them, trying to create a false narrative, we need to know who you are.
Well, then why aren't those people who are the security forces, Proud Boys and Roof Koreans, so forth, entourage? Why don't they have their mask off? If
Well,
they're
because again, when they're being security, they're the ones who are going to have their business ruined. Because I don't see Tony Moon or some of these other content creators going after Habituate. I just don't see it. But I do see Chad Loader going after the post millennial.
Okay,
I
yeah. So,
do
so
see,
for people who don't know, Habituate is Chad Loader's company that he is the founder of.
Yes, he's the
And
founder of.
that's that's
I don't see that. I don't see the demonstrations outside of Habituate. I don't see, the big scenes, the real trying to cancel him with everything we've got. We don't do that. But should one of those securities have a business like Habituate, oh, you bet your butt they're going to try and dox them. They're going to try and ruin them. So it's for the securities safety to make sure that they are protected, at home in their personal life. But if these journalists, if you're truly an independent journalist, then you should be willing to show your face, show yourself. You want to live in the light as a journalist. You want to shed light, right? You want to shed light on other people's news, other people's happenings, but yet you want to live in the darkness? You want to live in the shadows, covered up? That doesn't work for anybody.
no, especially at these rallies where you have two opposing groups. When as press, I mean, my strategy has always been to be neutral as possible. If there are two opposing groups, I get somewhere in the middle and try to talk to everybody, and I let my face be seen and
Right.
let it be out there. But you have a lot of clandestine sort of avatar press, I guess, people who are just another name on Twitter and using hiding their identity to attack and to weaponize information and attack people. And it's happened to me. The reason that I got on, quote unquote, the wrong foot with the leftist community in LA is because they posted a picture of me back in Huntington Beach in April. One of them recognized who I was and said I was a Capitol stormer because I was there on January 6th and I covered it and live streamed and also documented what happened that day extensively.
And
They
they
just
bullied you. They bully tagged
they
you,
bully
huh?
you. They bully tagged me. That's exactly it. That's exactly it. And
Yeah, they did it
so
to Christopher Drew too. Christopher Drew, another content creator. He's in Huntington Beach. He's actually lives down there. He was in January 6th. He didn't actually make it there. He was just hanging out on the grassy knoll, but he got super excited. He did a live stream like, oh yeah, we did it. It was so cool. And they bully tagged him. And the FBI broke into his house, 7 o'clock in the morning, breaking through the windows, arms, and marching him out naked.
really, this is
Yeah,
somebody in Huntington Beach.
someone in Huntington Beach. Yes, his name
Wow.
is Christopher Drew. Kristropher, Dreww. Look him up. But
Okay.
yeah, there's footage of it. It's his neighbors. I mean, he's like me. He's a very just nice, shiny, bubbly person. And the sad part is because of that bully tagging and because of the FBI crashing into his house, that has affected his psyche. That's affected his demeanor. I've gone down to go hang out with him at the beach, and the police copter will come eventually through the down the beach and back to just kind of make sure that everything's gone. And as soon as that happens, he's over here covering up because it psychologically affected him. And that broke my heart that these people bully tagged the FBI to get the FBI to break into my friend's house at 6 o'clock in the morning, traumatize him, take away all of his stuff, break all of his electronics, all of his videotaping, audio recording equipment was destroyed by the FBI. And then only to be in limbo for months and months and months, then finally say, oh, okay, no, we're good. Thank you so much. The damage is done. The damage is done. That poor man's psyche has been broken. And now that person doesn't want to go hang out at rallies anymore. That person doesn't want to come be, at events with us because I don't know what I could bring. What if someone's following me? What if the FBI is gonna do something? And that is in the back of his head. And who did that? It wasn't the right. It was the left that bully tagged that poor young man for a video that he did.
This is a disturbing trend in my opinion, where anybody who was, and there were tens of thousands of people that were there in Washington D.C. on January the 6th, but anybody who was there, including a left-leaning journalist like myself, can be labeled online or bully tagged, as you said. The last one to do it to me was actually none other than Chad Loder's lawyer. Actually took a picture of me and posted it and had another account post it and then said, this person's admitted to a crime to me. And it's absolutely absurd. I've never been under any suspicion. I'm cleared. I've been very open that I'm cleared when it comes to the Department of Justice and that I was there, as a journalist and had the history. And because of my history as a journalist, but this idea that you could just pick anybody and go after them and
Yeah.
try to label them and tag them in that way, it's a very disturbing trend that may have repercussions coming up in the next election cycle. And it's not going to have the kind of repercussions that I think it'll work against those. It'll provoke a reaction. I've always said
Yeah.
every action, there's the old saying that every action in life has an equal opposite reaction. So you can't expect to just go after people, go after their livelihoods, take them down. It comes back down to that question that I would ask the leftist if they had the guts to actually come on a show like this and talk about their ideas and discuss them. I'm a fair operator. I let you talk. There's some things you say I don't agree with, and that's not the point. The point is to let people be heard, to have discussions and see where we do agree. But
Right.
if any of them had the, guts to come on, again, that question is still outstanding. How do you see all this going? That you will take down everybody one by one until conservatism is gone? Is that
Well,
the vision here?
I don't know. I don't know what's the future, what's the goal. For me, my goal is just to get this message of freedom out. Just be yourself, and have the freedom of bodily autonomy. That's, to me, that's central to a core to who I am. I don't like religion shoved down my throat, and I don't want to shove anything of mine down other people's throat. So I think in the future we're going to see a lot more unicorns. I call myself a unicorn because I'm very different in the movement. Lady Maga is another unicorn that I'm very, very close with. I don't know if you've ever heard of her or you've crossed paths with her. She's a fantastic character that promotes freedom of speech, Second Amendment, constitutional rights. You have an entire movement of LGBT patriots who created an entire website called Get Outspoken. GetOutspoken.com is owned and operated by a branch of the Log Cabin Republicans to help disseminate some of these false stories that they were telling about the prior administration and their hatred towards the LGBT. They're like, no, 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 no. And they have great writers, from Chadwick Moore to Joel Brizet and many more. I mean, they actually sponsored an event in Tennessee where Richard Grinnell, of all people, came down and spoke to over, I think it was about 300 gay conservatives, men and women, drag queens, weirdos like me. We sat there and we listened to the founder of Gateway Pundit. We listened to D. Roy Murdoch talk about the important role that these LGBT people have in this conservative movement. And I think what's in the future, we're going to see a lot more Scott Presslers, a lot more Brandon Strauchs, a lot more Brokeback Patriots, because we are becoming louder. We are becoming stronger. We are unifying. We're talking to one another. We have Telegram chats where we discuss and we create content. We made content last year that pissed off Perez Hilton. Perez Hilton had to take our content and put it on his own thing and say, look at these, they're so awful. These are just trash gays. I don't care. But guess what? You put our message out there, didn't you?
I have to ask you before we go about the third rail question,
Yep.
which is how you referred to the community that did you say just now did you say LGBT? Do you say LGBTQ? This is the third rail of identity politics right now,
Right.
whether people are exclusionary.
Right.
And I
Me-
have to bring it up because you just,
Yeah.
said something.
Well, okay. So I
So
call it the gay plantation. I call it the gay plantation because just like the plantation owners, if you don't subscribe and you don't do what the plantation owners, you're nothing. You don't belong. We don't want you.
You're
I call
talking
it
about activists. When
the,
you refer
no,
to
no, the
who
community.
you refer, the community.
The gay community, the LGBTQIA plus 2A whatever XYZ they call themselves, that community, that is a community that I don't really agree with. I don't talk to. I don't want anything to do with because they've already excommunicated me. They see me and my husband as a threat to their. I don't know, but.
For being
Long
conservative,
before,
you say?
yeah, being conservative, my conservative values, the fact that my husband and I are not open in our relationship, to them that's atrocious.
That you're not, sorry, that your husband
That
and I
we're
are,
that sorry, that we're monogamous.
That you're monogamous. Okay.
That we are,
Yes.
my husband and I are monogamous. We've been not monogamous for 18 years. Okay.
Okay.
The gay community, when I meet a new friend or whatever in the LGBT, the second question they ask me after asking me how long we've been together, they go, "Oh, open or closed?
Hmm.
Open or closed?" That's the second question that I get. "Oh, how long have you been together?" "Oh, 18 years." "Oh, open or closed?" Like and that's supposed to be a normal question. And I say, "Oh, no, 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 we're closed. We don't. And all of a sudden it's, "Oh, well, what are you trying to be hetero? Are you trying to be straight? You're not straight. Like, why?" To them, it's awkward, it's different, it's rare, and to them, it's off-putting. So I've already been kicked out of the LGBT, gay, Q, whatever community. They don't want, simply because of that. Simply because I don't meet and then on top of that, I'm all this. They want nothing to do with me.
So when conservatives like you split apart from the community, do you consider yourself exclusionary when it comes to rights, or the opposite? Do you consider yourself inclusionary when it comes to no matter how somebody identifies when it comes to their rights?
Oh no, I'm inclusionary when it comes to a person's rights. A person's rights are the person's right. They're outlined in the Bill of Rights. And one is the freedom of speech, freedom of assembly, freedom of religion, to bear arms, right to not self-incriminate. Those are the only rights that we really need. And we
So
are endowed by our creator, because whether it's God, whether it's Allah, whether it's Yahweh, whether it's Yeshua, we are endowed by our creator. The founding fathers were very specific in choosing their words, and that's exactly why they chose that word.
well, we're going to leave it at right here. Mario Presents. Tell people where they can find you and a little bit more about your activism. What is you're on Instagram mostly? Yes.
Yes, I'm on all platforms. Follow me on all platforms except for Twitter, because it's a cesspool, but it's always Mario Presents, all one word. And you can always find me at www.mariopresents.com.
There you go. My guest today has been Mario Presents. We have enjoyed this discussion across the aisle on the Anti-Polarization podcast. This is Unblocked Live. My guest has been Mario Presents. Thank you so much. We're going to try to do some more of these, so please subscribe at youtube.com /Unblocked Live, where you can follow me on Twitter. Thank you so much. Thanks to our guest, Mario Presents. Everybody
Bye,
have a
guys.
good day.